MTV's The Challenge is one of the longest running competition reality television shows. It started in 1998. That's before Survivor, Big Brother, American Idol, and pretty much any other competition reality show that you've ever heard of. So needless to say, it's been going on for a long time. But the last couple years, there's been a lot of weird things going on with it, and especially now, the show's in a really interesting place, to say the least. So today we're going to get into a lot of the things that are going on right now and talk about what it means for the future of the show. The show started out as a spin-off of MTV's reality television shows, where contestants from MTV's The Real World and Road Rules battled it out for cash prizes. This made it stand out from other competition shows because these people were not cast to compete originally. They were cast to cause drama and entertainment for depraved individuals, like myself, and they were given a lot of alcohol. Needless to say, this caused a hell of a lot more drama than shows like Big Brother.
Listen,
we're gonna run down there and do it.
you have a girlfriend, you love her, you know.
Love her with all my heart.
I'm single, I would never overstep those boundaries, ever. We hooked up, whatever.
For someone like me who loves shows like Survivor and Big Brother, it scratches that itch while providing something different. That coupled with its format, where people are eliminated through duels instead of being voted out, either by fellow contestants, judges, or America, made it feel like any single player could win no matter what was happening and how down and out they seemed. This led to some of the most insane and unpredictable seasons of reality television ever. Eventually, though, changes had to be made to the show, primarily in casting. While the challenge itself has remained strong, the shows it was pulling from can't say the same thing. Road Rules was eventually canceled, and The Real World has only aired one season since 2017. And even though The Real World has new seasons announced starting in 2023, The Real World alone is not enough of a casting pool to fuel the show after the cancellation of Road Rules. One method of gaining new people was through the fresh meat gimmick, where half the cast was comprised of all new people to the reality television universe. Many faces of the challenge have come from this format, but it was only done twice. And that is because part of the show is that each season has a different theme, so they didn't want to use that one too many times. This meant that they had to cast from the other MTV shows, which worked pretty alright for a while, and it added some new drama. From season 26 on, contestants from other MTV properties would begin to trickle into the casting pool. The bigger shift came in season 31, where contestants started to appear from one of CBS's properties, Big Brother. Slowly but surely, the amount of people originating from an actual MTV property has dwindled to the point where it hardly seems like an MTV show. This has led to the most recent season having the smallest portion of MTV originating contestants yet. It also brings us to the current position of the challenge, which is uncertain. As of now, season 38 has not been confirmed, yet we know there is a season in production right now. So if it's not season 38, then what is it? Well, this is where CBS comes in. Instead of getting season 38 of MTV's The Challenge right away this year, we're getting a spin-off of it on CBS with a cast entirely composed of people from their reality shows. You may be wondering how an MTV show is going to air on CBS, and that is because they're both owned by Paramount. This is why if you're on Paramount Plus, you can watch most seasons of The Challenge. This is also why TJ Lavin, the host of the MTV Challenge, is going to be the host of the CBS Challenge. So why exactly is this happening? This decision seems to be a part of Paramount's strategy to shift towards having more streaming programs to compete with other services like Disney and Netflix. To tie in with this new season, there's going to be an exclusive season of the challenge on Paramount Plus that has competitors from all over the world competing. So basically, they want to get people to watch the challenge on CBS and their other local CBS platforms in other countries, and then get them to buy Paramount Plus to see what happens to those competitors against the competitors from the other countries. This also makes a lot of sense when you think about trying to get new viewers of the show. While the challenge has its own dedicated fan base, part of the draw of the show is supposed to be getting to see people from your favorite reality shows competing against each other. This kind of becomes an issue when you're having to draw contestants from random ass places. Personally, I don't really have a problem with having people from all over reality television. It's pretty cool that you can see people from The Circle and Survivor on the same show. But when you look at it from the standpoint of Paramount, it makes a lot more sense to say, hey, why don't we just cast from a few shows that are more recognizable to the casual viewer? While it's cool that people from the international versions of Survivor and Big Brother were on last season of the challenge, they aren't going to be bringing in people that have not already watched the challenge before. People from the American Survivor and Big Brother, though, are certainly going to be a draw for some people. Not to mention that they can also cast more heavily from other shows like Love Island, which brings in an entirely different demographic than Survivor. Even the show that the challenge is primarily pulling from, The Real World, is not even on MTV anymore, but will be on Paramount+. The biggest reason that I think this is happening, though, is because it means that Paramount can consolidate their competitive reality television audience to one channel instead of splitting it into two. This is especially important because they made a really boneheaded scheduling decision for the last season of The Challenge. The last few seasons of The Challenge have aired on Wednesday nights at around 8 o'clock. This was great for the spring season, but in the fall of 2021, Survivor came back to TV after a year of hiatus. This means that it slid right back into its time slot, Wednesday at 8. This means that people have to either make a decision to watch The Challenge or Survivor, and then if they want to watch the other show, they have to go out of their way to watch that, which a lot of people definitely didn't do. This is dumb because there's a decent amount of overlap in people that watch The Challenge and Survivor, especially considering the fact that there are people from Survivor that were on the last season of The Challenge. It doesn't make a lot of sense to air those two shows at the same time, especially when they're from the same parent company. All of these things sound like good, valid reasons to make this sort of a change. So where are the concerns? Well, the first concern that a lot of people have is that if the CBS version becomes the main version of the show, then it is possible that we won't see any of the people that we have come to love from The Challenge in The Challenge. This is supported by the rumored cast being composed entirely of people from Survivor, Big Brother, Love Island, and The Amazing Race. All CBS properties. Further complicating this is that none of them have been on the MTV version of the show. This really makes it seem like Paramount is trying to make it its own thing. This is coupled with the fact that Paramount Plus is going to be putting out a third season of The Challenge All-Stars, which is entirely cast of people from older seasons of The Challenge. It certainly seems like for the spin-offs of The Challenge at least, they are dividing it from the old challenge and the new challenge. And as far as we know, for the regular version of the show, it's unclear what is going to happen. There's a lot of rumors about who's going to be on the cast, if there even is going to be a 38th season of the show, but a lot of these rumors involve not a lot of people from the older seasons of The Challenge. So it's kind of like, well, what is going on here, guys? The concern is that the show is going to abandon the older players in favor of only having CBS contestants, which to a lot of viewers is important. This is especially concerning if the show is airing on CBS and not straight to Paramount Plus, which it's likely to do, because it's almost guaranteed to outperform the numbers of the MTV version of the show. Every single one of the shows that they are pulling from crushes The Challenge when it comes to viewership. So if the CBS version of the show doesn't also beat them, then it would be shocking. This is concerning because part of what sets The Challenge apart from other competition reality shows is that we get to see contestants go on many seasons and see their story continue through them. And right now it feels like a lot of this is getting thrown out the window. We might not get to see any of these players that we have been watching for years ever again. Even in the MTV version of the show, it feels like more and more new people are coming in and we're getting less long runs of veterans than we used to. I don't think this is necessarily an issue for the CBS version of The Challenge if it is going to be its own thing. But if the MTV Challenge continues down this trajectory, it is concerning for the viability of that show as the ratings will continue to fall with less and less fans being invested in the show. This is especially a problem if it does not have the draw that the CBS version has, considering that they are going to be bringing in people that the viewers definitely know, whereas the MTV version is bringing in people from CBS, but also a bunch of random international shows. This is especially confusing because we know there are going to be 3 international spin-offs of the show airing on regional equivalents to CBS. So why is the main version of the show bringing in people from all of these other sources that are now going to have their own version? Part of the issue is that MTV itself does not have very many places to bring people from anymore. But the larger issue is that the showrunners don't understand what the people watching actually want in the show. The other thing that people are worried about is that if the show is going to be on CBS, then it's going to be a lot more family-friendly compared to the MTV version. It's unlikely that we're going to see a lot of trashy drama on this version of the show, which is part of the draw to the challenge. Most people that are watching and have been fans of the challenge for a long time are fans because they like to get to see the trashy reality TV along with the competition. But it seems like we're going to get rid of the trashy reality television aspect of it, which is very disappointing to a lot of people. Most of the cast is going to be from Survivor, Big Brother, and The Amazing Race. All of these shows are tame when it comes to that kind of content and focus more on the game aspect of the show. They're game shows first and reality shows second. This is in contrast to The Challenge, which for a long time has been a reality show first and then a game show second. Although this has been transitioning as the years have gone by to being more about the game aspect of it than the reality aspect of it, which is a whole issue within the fan base that is coming to a head because of CBS's version of the challenge, pretty much saying, yeah, you're not going to get any of the trashiness. You might get a little bit, but no one's going to be drunkenly going around throwing things at people or getting into fights, because at most you're going to get about 2 drinks a night, and that's not going to be enough to have all these conflicts that we have gotten in the past for the challenge. This has a lot to do with how CBS limits the alcohol intake of contestants. The rule for Love Island, for example, is that they could only have 2 drinks a night, and it is likely that for the challenge this will follow a similar model. Many people attribute this to being a factor in CBS making the show worse, and while I agree that it is something that I'm going to miss from the challenge, I don't think that this is a CBS problem by itself. This is because in the last season of the challenge, contestants also had a drink ticket system where they were limited to 3 drinks a night, which is very similar to what was going on in Love Island. This means that regardless of it being on CBS, this is a change that is happening to the show, and I don't think the blame is on CBS alone here when it comes to that. This is an issue that MTV's version of the show has to figure out itself. Because if it's going to say, hey, we're not going to be that same kind of show that we used to be, then it has to figure out some other reason to get people to watch if that's why they're watching the show. I think that this is kind of the biggest issue with the challenge currently. There's more changes happening to it than ever before, and a lot of them are not working. At the rate that it is going to lose the fan base that it has cultivated, and it's not doing a good job of bringing new people in. Most people that are watching shows like Big Brother, which they're getting a lot of these contestants from, don't even know that the challenge exists and are unlikely to randomly find it. So the big picture here is the trajectory that the show is going in is not a good one. And clearly Paramount is trying to figure out what the best system for it is, because even with its falling numbers, it is a show that has had 37 seasons and a dedicated fan base. And I think at least if they make the right decisions, it can bounce back. It seems like right now we're at the phase of throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. And if the CBS version is successful, then that's great. That means that the show is not going to just die. I don't think, though, that the mere existence of a CBS version is going to kill the MTV version of the show. If that version of the show dies, it's because of the decisions that the people producing it have made. We are at least not going to entirely lose out on the legacy of the show, as the All-Stars version is going to be airing its 3rd season, with a lot of players from the era of the show that longtime fans are the most fond of. And while that's not the best substitute for what we are used to, it's better than nothing, especially if they can make improvements to that version of the show. I genuinely hope that the CBS version is good, though, because I think that the best case scenario is that it can create something that we can all enjoy for years to come. And if it is successful, it just might be what the MTV version needs to get better. It's easy to look at this situation and say, this sucks, the show's done, and I'm just never going to have the challenge again. It's over. The challenge is over. The challenge is dead, and I hate this. I hate everything that's going on right now. And that's the state that a lot of fans are in. But as fans, we have to hope that this does not mean the end of the show entirely. We have to hope that the show can get better, because every show has slumps. The challenge has had slumps before, and then it bounces back, and then it has another slump. And we might be in a slump right now. We have to hope, though, that whatever Paramount is doing, it ends up with the betterment of the show. And if it doesn't, well, that's where we use our voice. But I'm Alex. Let's keep it real.
Walk a straight line, Tony.
You want me to walk a straight line while I'm looking at you, Shane? You want me to walk a straight line?
Is that straight? Is that straight?
What you want me to do?
Is that straight? Is that straight? Own your drop your pride. Forget the camera.